Well, a very good afternoon to you live from Miami. Day 3 of the Miami Royal Cup, the second event in the North America for the 2017 52 Super Series. We'd have had a little bit of a delay, unfortunately, as the waiting for the wind to build, and fortunately it has done that. It's quite hot out in the water. The breeze has built up to about 5 or 6 knots, I believe, and we're waiting to get race number 5 of the series underway, so much lighter. A very quick look at the leaderboard after 4 races. Will we see that Azura are the top of the table? A good day for them yesterday. 2-2, 1-1, 2 wins yesterday, so they're now 8 points clear of Platoon. Provetza had a pretty solid day yesterday and are just 1 point breathing down the neck of Platoon. Quantum Racing 6 and 7 yesterday. They started well on day 1, but not so good yesterday. They're in 4th place, and Ran Racing 19 points, just 1 point behind Quantum Racing. So conditions are looking pretty light. We're hopefully going to go out to the race course with our on-the-water commentator Stuart Strelly. Stu, how's it looking?
We're very excited. The breeze has come in. We're getting right down to the bitter end of the start here. Pretty well spread out along the line. I'm looking right here at Tony Langley. He's got he looks for the boat end along with Quantum and Provetza. Down at the leeward end, I saw it was Platoon, Sled, Ran Racing appears to get away with the best start off the leeward end. Azura is the big winner in the middle. And then at the boat end, it's Quantum Racing. Brunenasek also with a good start. Tony Langley coming in just a hair late on Quantum. I expect he's going to be flopping over here, and he does right away. He'll be pulling out right onto Port Tax, starting to truly live in the bad air of Quantum. Very well. They were in the middle of the line, really got right on the, had a nice build up there, and pulling out. Azura below them also looks quite good. So, fairly even start. The wind is, I would give knots, 8 knots here. The boats are up. We're seeing no down on the leeward side. The sea's a bit of a flat out here, Andy, than they were to that course earlier this week. So the wind just sort of dying away has really served to flatten things out. We got a pretty clean racetrack here. Right now, everyone going over on starboard tack with the exception of Gladiator. We're with Gladiator here on the starboard side. They're owning this right side for the moment. Hard to see anything significant up the track, but the one comment I do have on that is that when the clouds sort of cleared away from here, that was when the breeze filled in, and right now there's a lot less clouds on the left side of the track. So if that clearing is any indication of more breeze filling in, then I can understand why the bulk of the fleet's going left. It looks like if I look back over there, I think I see Provetza. They have bailed out, or maybe that's a leg ray. Hard to tell from this far away. Actually looks like a leg ray. So they've come out on starboard now, or on port tack now rather, and there's a boat behind them. So a lot of interest in the left side this early stage. Tony Langley's putting it hard into the right side, although as I say that, I see the crew loading the runners up. They're going to roll into attack right now. So they've got a little bit of a puff over here. I think they're going to try and check back in and not get too far away from the rest of the fleet.
Yes, Stu, the early leader then on the virtual appears to be Sled, along with Ran Racing and Azura. Azura pretty solid, and in the mix on the left side of the track, we can see Brunenasek there with their bows forward on the group. Again, Stu, not such a good start for Quantum Racing.
No, but there's a lot of interest in the starboard end, and Quantum did a double tack with about 40 seconds to go. Tony Langley, the Gladiator team, was the only boat to further out than them, and then touch back, and we're just a hair late getting in there to the mark and getting into the line. And they may have been dealing also with a slightly unfavored side of the line if we're looking at the boats down the left end winning now. So Tony Langley coming back, not looking like he has a great angle on a leg ray, who is, of course, probably one of the lower end boats on that side, having to bail out of a bad lane. So looking right now, staying out, I can just see Sled all the way down there. They're looking very good on starboard tack, continuing out that way. The boats that had the choice are obviously still with them. Azura, Ran Racing, and then we have a group coming back in the middle, including Provetza and Allegre.
So at the moment, though, Azura, the regatta leaders, looking pretty strong. A nice, solid start for them. Pretty much on the line on the gun and going quite well. We see them in third just now, Stu and Virtual, and also in the mix there, Brunenasek. Brunenasek started well. Vladimir Lubomirov has been showing quite well. A 2 and a 6 yesterday, just a narrow second place in that first race yesterday. Had a few problems in the second race, but they're showing quite well this regatta, our Brunenasek.
Yeah, well, the tough results for Brunenasek have been mostly due to a self-inflicted wounds, right? They dropped the spinnaker in the drink in the first race when they were in a good position, and then had to hit a mark in the second race when they were in position to round in the top three. So if you subtract some of those unforced errors, I think you see them right at the top of the leaderboard or close to it.
So at the moment, then, as they say, Azura showing quite well. With their consistent scoreline so far, 2-2, 1-1. What have they got to do today? It's really not about hitting it out the park. It's just keeping that high level of consistency, isn't it?
That's exactly right, Andy. I mean, they've shown that they have good speed, although, of course, we saw they had great speed and a little more wind, and now they've got to shift gears and find that same speed edge in these lighter conditions. But you want to be careful about getting too conservative. This is not what we say. This is a very deep fleet. There's not a lot of room to sort of play the middle, play some defense, and soft pedal the race and expect to round in the top half of the fleet. If you are not really charging and looking for racing to win, I don't think you're gonna do well out here. So I don't think you'll see those guys pulling any real flyers. They will stay with the group, but on the other hand, I think they'll be racing to win like they have been all week so far.
So meantime, we're also looking at Platoon. Platoon lying second overall. Now, we know that they have a small deficit, or they've had a small deficit in upwind speed. That is what they've been looking for. We spoke with Cheese, with Dirk de Ridder early on in the week, and they were working hard at the Maastricht, trying to find a little bit more speed upwind. But at the moment, they're lying in ninth place on the water, so it's clear they have a little bit more work to do.
Yeah, Platoon showed us in Key West they know how to sail the boat. I suspect they will be working to sort out those issues. And it is a bit of it's a whole new breeze and a whole new sea state. So, gone are the big choppy seas. Gone are the 15 to 20 knots we saw on day one. This is all about 7, 8 knots through that those puffs, second the dots, so to speak. And keeping the boat rumbling. And John Kostecki, he's as good as anyone at that. I'm out here on the right side, Andy, and we got a nice puff out here. And again, hard to see. They may have exactly the same thing over on the left. But I'm looking at Allegre right now, and Provezza. They look like they're moving along quite well. And again, I defer to you on the leaderboard whether they seem to be gaining it all on Sled. I can see between them, it looks like Sled has come back onto port tack on the far right side, so they must be getting out toward the corner there and deciding they've got to come back to the middle and look to get toward that mark.
Yeah, we're watching Allegre just now. Allegre seemed to be going quite well. Andy Soriano, the helmsman who was sidelined yesterday by a small ankle injury, is back on board and seemed to be going okay on that right side with this right side group. That's Gladiator, Provezza and Allegre. Gladiator appeared to be digging a little bit deeper, maybe having a little bit of a knock, perhaps, Stu. Is that an indication of a change in the breeze on your side, do you think?
Well, I think a better indication of the knock is the fact that Allegre and Provezza are rolling into attack right now. Yeah. So I think you're right on there. Gladiator looks like they're loading up to go. We'll have to see how the Gladiator team goes. Of course, it's for them they've got to really sort of ship on their hands the first day, really eager to see what that new boat could do, and now they've got to go back to their old boat, which, if Key West is any indication, may not be up to speed with some of the fastest ones in the fleet here.
Yeah, I mean, the Gladiator's always gone reasonably well in the stronger breezes, but struggled in the lighter airs. But anyway, we are looking at them as they go back. Allegre, Provezza and on our virtual just now. Maybe we could have a look at the relative boat speeds of the different sides of the course on our virtual, see how that compares. But Gladiator do have a little bit of work to do. And perhaps just a little bit more wind pressure on that left side. We can see Platoon going quite quick, but no, it's probably fairly even.
You know, there's anything to be said for these boats on the right. They do all have their sort of own lanes to sail in. And as those boats on the left, I'm still looking, and they're all still bunched up very tightly. When they come back, you know, of course, the first couple boats are going to have nice lanes back, and they're going to be very happy. But the boats behind them are going to have to struggle with some thin or marginal lanes, and they have to tack twice to clear their air. And that could open a slot for some of these boats on the right to hop into the top 5. And if, you know, you can do that, you get into the top 5 around the weather mark, I think you consider that a victory, especially if you did not have your choice off the starting line.
So, Stu, we just saw Quantum going back, getting themselves momentarily up to second, but they've had to tack underneath Brunenisek and Sled in particular. Azura just slightly to weather of them, I think. And so it's not the position that Quantum would want just now, but they certainly in the mix in the top half of the fleet meantime. And probably you'd have to say on that favoured side of the course, on that left side. Just looking just now at Allegri and Provezza going back at that group, the left side group, and looking like they'll be going behind or having to tack inside.
Yeah,
so
I wouldn't be
still,
surprised to see those guys take a step out here. It does look like we've got some nice pressure out here toward the right side. We're now sort of buzzing up toward the windward mark, Andy, so if you get a little bit of wind noise here, you'll know why. But there's some pressure out here. There certainly is some pressure out on the right side. You have to take a little bit of courage to come out here when it hasn't worked so far. But, you know, in for a dime, in for a dollar, it might be the way to go.
They were just watching the positions changing also all the time on that left side. Brunenisek, Quantum, Azura, Sled. Sled were the early leaders, appear to have lost out just a little bit to Brunenisek. But it's very, very even. The top 4 boats all within 10 or 11 metres of each other in terms of the distance to the windward mark. But Quantum, yep. Terry Hutchison working a little bit of magic, getting into the fleet, into the top group, and giving Azura something to think about meantime. But all these 5 boats kind of hipped up on this left side coming in. Quantum, Brunenisek, Azura, Sled, then further out to windward Platoon. And ran racing, then the furthest out to the left, and still in fact going out left.
Andy, I can see sort of the farthest out boats out there on the left side. I can see Sorsha there going behind one of the boats. Hard to tell, of course.
Ran racing it is.
Yeah, they look a little bow down, relative to their compatriots on port tack that are more in the middle of the course. Quantum, Azura. Those guys. So I wonder if that left side is starting to fall apart a little bit. I'm out here on the right. I'm seeing a little bit more pressure. They're going to be behind Quantum Racing, and you can probably tell us by how much.
Yeah, Quantum have made a small, Provezza have made a small game, according to Virgil, now up to 4th place. So as you say, I think that working for them, coming across in a nice lane of breeze, and just to leeward there we see them, or in fact just to windward, to windward of Brunenisek, they've got themselves into the match. But Quantum Racing on our Virgil and on the water, I think, leading. Yeah,
well, so Provezza did Quantum a huge solid there. They picked off Brunenisek, and then 4th was an Azura to duck behind them. So they really pushed 2 boats off their hip, which all of a sudden will give Quantum the freedom to do whatever they want as they come up here towards the starboard ley line. Terry Hutchison looks like he may be able to turn this thing into a beach.
And meantime, Azura pinned.
Yeah, Azura's pinned, although Provezza's tacking right now. They're going to come back. I think it's the right side appears to be coming in late up here. Good pressure, but as you look beyond, as we look up, there seems to be solid pressure right here at the mark where we are now. You look beyond that, it looks like it fades a little bit. So I think this is going to be a sort of like a leg-by-leg race. There's not going to be a lot of a form guide that you can rely on as you go up and down the track. You're going to have to, as Vascato likes to say, have to sort of clear your mind and approach each leg with a fresh look, because it's going to be very tricky the rest of the leg.
So Provezza get themselves up to 3rd place, the best of the boats that were on the right early on. Tony Ray picking the time to get back into the fleet, get back to the favoured left side. And as Stu said, just managing to pin Azura to leeward for the meantime. And looking at Quantum Racing, Quantum did not get the start they wanted, but do seem to have found themselves a nice lane and good speed. They did show well in the lighter airs in Key West when it was light. Terry Hutchison there, we just see him at the back of the boat, crouched, watching what's happening to leeward, checking the wind pressure to windward coming down to them as they roll into their tack.
A lot of tacks for Quantum Racing. I mean, Terry must be really seeing some significant shifts to this light air. So to attack that many times, he's got to be on 6 or 7 on this leg so far. That's quite a heavy number of tacks for this light breeze. So he must be seeing some shifts. He's playing those as much as he can, and as he tacks over, he appears to be caught really into a huge left shift here. He's probably 5 or 10 degrees up on Prevetta, who isn't more than 100 meters away from him. So a lot of little micro changes in the course here. The left side now appearing to really benefit from a late left shift.
Yeah.
And we saw that yesterday, where it's that last shift into the mark that really can make a huge difference. If you can get that one right, you can turn somewhat average leg into a real winner.
It seems like Azura are in phase with that as well. Azura getting up to second, seemed to have shaken off Preveza momentarily. Allegre were up there as well. Allegre coming out.
I see Sled coming back as well.
Yeah, Allegre getting up to the starboard tack ley line just in a few seconds, I think.
I think Azura is going to have a hard time, though. They're the first one down here on the ley line. They got a lot of boats that are going to come out and either tack on them or in front of them. And the angle coming back for those boats out there is not good at the moment. So I think you're going to see some of these boats coming in from the left side. They're going to create some havoc for those guys that set up early on the starboard tack ley line, and Azura being one of them. Quantum, they're going out. They're going to be out far enough to really put some hurt on some of those boats. I'm not sure if Terry Hutchison didn't seem to think this breeze is going hard left, but he is really putting himself way out over the mark, taking no chances with his positioning here. And then Sled coming behind him, I expect we'll see them potentially Brunellisek round in second place.
So we're just watching Boro Gulari take Quantum through the tack. Doug DeVos's team, unfortunately, Doug DeVos not with us during this regatta, is Bora Gulari, who's helming. And based down here in Miami through his winter, so he'd be well in tune with the breezes, you'd imagine. Going better today in this light conditions as they lead around the top mark. Yeah, Stu, take us around the top mark.
Yeah, so Quantum's going around, and behind them it is absolutely themselves a 200 or 300 meter lead by the time everyone gets settled. Absolute chaos, a total washing machine of boats tacking back and forth. We got Platoon tacking underneath Sled, who's on a thin ley line. Brunellisek ducking underneath Preveza. Preveza's barely going to make it. Platoon's got to somehow squeeze in there. They're shooting the mark right now. I don't have high hopes that Platoon's going to be able to make it around here. In fact, yep, they're spinning out. They're bailing out. Sled's going to sneak around in second. Preveza in third. Azura probably in fourth. Platoon will be the big loser in this situation. They got to get that runner off there. They got to jive around. They're going to come in well behind all these boats. Preveza, Sled, Azura, but all these boats are slow. Quantum's already set before these boats even got onto the offset leg. Allegre coming around in fifth. Then it's going to be Gladiator pulling a solid sixth. Platoon still very slow, trying to get themselves going. They've got to find speed and they've got to tack. You know, we were talking about how much Terry Hutchison overlaid the mark, apparently, but he clearly saw something because he had every opportunity to cut it a little short, and he didn't. He stretched it out, gave himself his team the opportunity to get some speed coming into the mark, and they did. Looks like we got Brunellisek rolling into a circle here. They must have fouled somebody. The judges out here on the boat, they're whistling things. So Brunellisek will come in. It's going to be Platoon going around in seventh, Sorsha eighth, Rand Racing in ninth, although they may be able to get over Sorsha on the reach leg. They're coming in quite a lot of speed. And Brunellisek after that circle is going to round in 10th. So what an amazing development up here. So orderly. And then 200 meters from the mark, the wind appeared to shut off, maybe go a little left, and it was just absolute chaos trying to get around the mark. Brunellisek called it perfectly, and they are away.
Brunelesek appear to have missed the mark or doing turns, Stu.
Circle for Brunelesek, yes. They must have, I didn't quite see the foul, but they were lined up to round and they ducked and went into a circle. So they must have fouled someone in that melee that was happening right there, right before the mark rounding. So couldn't have shaped up any better for Quantum Racing after yesterday's tough day. You can bet that that's a weight off Borgalari's shoulders to get the boat around in first and have a little bit of room to work.
But Azura get away with fourth place, a little bit of distance behind Quantum, but it's not too bad in terms of the point situation. Something to work with for Azura, for Vasco Boscotto.
Well, we saw him yesterday. He was in last place on the run, and he still won the race. So I don't think he's has any problem turning a fourth into a better finish. If given the way he's been sailing, second and third should have their head on a swivel because he'll be right on their tails all race.
And Platoon 7th, the team who are lying second overall in the regatta.
They had a tough break. I'm not going to say a tough break. I mean, they looked pretty good coming in on the ley line, but it got really crazy there, and they tried to really just come in light, come in really shy, and hope they could pinch it up. But with the breeze going away, and they had no chance of making the mark, which means they had to circle back around. So they were in position to maybe round in the top three. They were right there with some of those top boats with sled. They were pretty overlapped with sled at that point, but just fell victim to the rules, and they had to stay out of the way of some of those other boats and couldn't get around. Yeah,
we're just seeing Azura jibing off early from the starboard jibe parade. Jibing away first to jibe.
Yeah, that's a strong move there by Azura in this light air. I think if you can be the first one to get away, if you can find that puff and bail out, you give yourself some freedom, nice clean air, and you can get away from some of the other boats. Quantum has gone with them, but the two boats in second and third, Sled and Provezza, are still going out on that starboard ley line.
So Quantum's lead around about 125 metres. Provezza just behind them, or about 30 metres behind. Azura Ran Racing also jibed early in Gladiator, so Gladiator really not so bad in sixth just now in the match, which is gratifying considering the efforts that they have put in over the last 48 hours to get the boat ready and on the water.
Yep, yeah. It was, so we saw the three boats that sort of appeared to struggle to head off the line: Gladiator, Allegre, Provezza. All of them were able to turn that right side into a pretty successful first beat, keep themselves in the race. Just an indication of how tricky it is out here and how much of a challenge. I do look up there. It seems to be getting. We had a nice breeze coming up the beat. As Quantum approached the weather mark, they had the entire crew on the rail. The boat was licked up pretty nicely, but I think the breeze has dropped. I think that lull that we saw as the bulk of the fleet started around the mark is sort of coming down with the fleet, and it's quite light now. Although they do have the staysails out, so that's an indication we've got about 7 or 8 knots, right? I remember from Fergal in Key West, that was one of his indicators for how much breeze we're seeing on the water. We're seeing staysails sort of across the fleet here right now.
That's great, Stu. Listen, give me 30 seconds. We've got some questions coming in on Twitter and on Facebook. If you have questions, then do post them, I say, either on Twitter or on the 52 Super Series Facebook page. I'm just going to run through some of them. A question from Colin Cren. How does the 52 Super Series have the money to televise these races? Well, it is very much thanks to Quantum Sales. It's 52 Super Series TV powered by Quantum Sales. And so they're our main sponsors for the live streaming. So we live stream today, tomorrow and Saturday, 3 days of the regatta. Otherwise, they're the main funding partner as far as the 52 Super Series TV is concerned. Question from Luis Telez, who says he would love to compete in the 52 Super Series. How do the sailors get involved in the circuit? Well, they are generally top-level professional sailors. There are some amateurs through the fleet, particularly on 1 or 2 on Gladiator, particularly on Paprec, and also on Provezza. They tend to be associated or friends of the owners in some particular cases. In the case of Paprec, then they've sailed with the Paprec team for many, many years. 1 or 2 younger Olympic sailors on the Paprec, but it does tend to be a question of being professional sailors and working their way up through the ranks, Lewis. And also The question was, what was the failure on Paprec? Well, they did demast. They lost their mast during training on Saturday. They hit the back of a big wave, and the mast just gave way thanks to shock loading. We have a special hello to St. Petersburg Yacht Club watching and supporting Brunanasek. Well, Brunanasek have got a little bit of work to do. And also another question about sled. How badly was sled damaged? Well, sled, the 4-foot needed a composite repair. It was taken out in the slings overnight. Shore team worked overnight, and the boat was back ready to race after that. So that's our questions from Facebook just now. Stu, tell us what's happening on the water.
Yeah, we've got most of the fleet. In fact, now we have the entire fleet on Port Jibe heading down. I think that we've seen a little bit of a shift back to the right. Not probably too surprising since we rounded in what appeared to be a pretty strong left shift. So we've got a shift back to the right, although it is very puffy. You can look down right now. I'm looking at Quantum Racing. They're in the lead, but I would say they're going a knot slower than Azura, who is, maybe 200, 300 meters off further to this right side of the course looking upwind. Azura really seems to have the power right now. Quantum waiting for it. We've got Rand Racing and Gladiator out here on the far right side looking upwind. And then more in the middle is Provesta. They appear to actually have a good puff right now. They've got a nice angle. Further on starboard, I'm thinking of Provesta, maybe Sled, and Quantum really benefit from the fact that we've had this late right shift in this season. On the other hand, some of the boats that chived out early, Rand Racing, a little bit of Zora, may find that they look good now, but when they have to find that angle back to the leeward gate, they're going to struggle a little bit, and some of these other boats are going to come in behind them. But
yes, Stu, we're just looking at the overhead shot from the drone live on this first downwind of race number 5 at the 52 Super Series at the Miami Royal Cup. Looks very light, very gentle. And we're just watching Azura just soaking down, as you say. It seemed to be going okay relative to Quantum, but it's going to be interesting to see what their angle looks like when they jibe back.
Yeah, my guess is that Azura is separating from Quantum gauge-wise. Quantum seems to be sailing a fairly low angle. They don't have the same velocity maybe, but they have a better angle. They're almost pointed at the leeward mark. The same thing true for angle at the moment, and right now Azura rolling into a jibe, so we'll get an early indication of how they're going to stack up against some of these other boats they were right behind. Of course, that was Provesta and Sled that they trailed right around that mark. I suspect Quantum Racing will still be strongly in the lead here.
Yeah,
they're going to have themselves a 20 or 30 second advantage.
Yeah, we've just seen Azura jibe, and their angle are basically pointing back at Quantum. So as you say, I think Quantum will gain out of this. They were about 100 meters ahead before Azura jibed, and that has opened out to 120, 140 meters at the moment on the virtual. Provezza, though, pretty solid in third, and Sled fifth, Gladiator sixth. Platoon a long way back at the back of the fleet, then over 400 meters behind the race leader.
Yeah, so big cross coming up here between Provezza and Azura. This is going to be the cross. You can see both sort of putting the bow up in anticipation of this head-to-head mix here. Provezza putting the bow. They're probably going to go behind Azura. Yeah, there they are. They're ducking. So those boats are essentially bow to bow. Big sort of downwind duck by Provezza. And of course, the downwind duck means you're trying to head up and go behind the transom of the boat as opposed to an upwind duck. But
an
here
upwind
comes Quantum Racing.
An upwind duck.
An upwind duck. Well, if you're going upwind and you've got to duck the boat, you got to go behind. You've got to bear away.
Exactly.
Yeah. All
anyway,
right, so Quantum Racing setting up for the douse here. They have a nice early douse. They're not going to take any chances with that. They're going to take the left-hand gate looking upwind as well, I suppose. Taking the opposite one. Coming toward us. I would give Azura, though, the lead here. They did not have to jibe. And Sled actually might be coming in here. Sled is probably going to give Provezza a run for its money for fourth place right now, or third place, rather, around the mark.
So, yes, we're just seeing Quantum going round the leeward gate with this nice little lead. Just see Azura coming in second. A little bit scrappy in the drop. Don't seem to have got the string working, getting the kite down the hatch very quickly. It's last minute manual drop. However, it's not hurting them too much. Then Provetsa just coming into picture, going around the right-hand mark, looking upwind. Sled on the left-hand mark, separating between the two. Nice steady rounding. Peter Holmberg on the helm. Nacho Postigo there at the back of Provetsa in the red gilet. Very, very experienced navigator. Been with the TP52 class since the very outset in 2005, 2006. And then Gladiator coming through now. The red boat on the right-hand mark, looking upwind. A little bit slow as they come round.
Not sure if you're seeing the Sorsha. They were pretty powered up there going into that takedown. So the breeze has definitely picked back up here a little bit. The one thing about that leeward mark is you saw that Azura got stuck a little bit in no man's land. They didn't quite. They were a little bit high of the ley line for that left-hand gate looking upwind, but not enough to throw another jibe in. So they had to take down maybe 2-3 lengths early and almost go dead downwind. They actually jibed the main over and the jib back onto port tack, and then jibe back onto starboard to go around, whereas Provetsa was able to come around with quite a bit of speed. And I wouldn't be surprised if Provetsa is pretty solidly in second right now on that computer, and Gladiator may have even snuck past Azura as well. They seem to be going well, too.
Yeah, we were just seeing Ran Racing manage to get their bow inside Bernina 6, so still a very close battle at the back of the fleet in 8th, 9th, 10th. Everything to play for. It's all about chipping away, all about pulling back a place. But
nice.
Ran Racing then dropping to 10th, and as you said, Sorsha coming in and getting themselves up to 8th and in contention against Platoon. But Azura still solid second with Provetsa in third and Sled fourth.
There's nice pressure out on the right side.
Yeah, the breeze looks to have picked up. We're just looking at Ran Racing just now, nicely powered up, and Nicholas Zenstrom on the helm with Tim Powell, long-time project manager, main sheet trimmer there. Great communication between the two as they head upwind. Second beat of race number 5 at the Miami Royal Cup. Just replaying the mark rounding on Quantum here. Just watching the string drop working there. The kite comes down in a matter of 2 or 3 seconds. Under no pressure really from the boats behind. Boro Galari then on the helm. Nice wide rounding coming in tight on the mark as they go upwind. So object lesson on mark rounding through the leeward gate. Quantum Racing now leading Azura by 150 metres as we go about approaching halfway up the second beat of what I think will probably be the only race today. Provetsa now up to third, Sled in fourth. And pretty solid fifth just now for Gladiator. Gladiator will get, or we understand Gladiator will get average points for the races they miss, or the races that they did miss. So they did not compete in 2 races, races 3 and 4, and they already have, so redress is granted from race 2.
Yeah, that's gonna make some math interesting on the final day when they've got 3 races that are factored in average points for the entire series. You can move a lot of points when you're influencing not only the race you're in, but also the 3 that are the result of the average points of the entire series. So that math could come into play as we get later in this regatta.
That's right. We'll have a word with Miguel Allen at some point on our Facebook Live, hopefully, and he'll explain the exact situation with the redress. But in the meantime, breeze appears to have picked up. You probably have 8 or 9 knots perhaps now, Stu.
Yeah, it's beautiful again. You know, this is sort of what we saw right before we got to the windward mark, the last leg. It's a really nice race, flat racetrack. We're talking, just very subtle, maybe a meter at a time, but very subtle, really not much to play with. And just a nice breeze. And as we get out the right side again, and a nice solid puff out here on the right side. And I'm not sure if they're seeing the same thing on the left, I do look over to Quantum. Looks like they've got plenty of pace over there. Tony Langley's Gladiator rolling into attack. They're going to start heading back. But the battle for second now, Provezza and Azura, those boats are closing together on the left side, and you could probably give us a better idea of what you see in that battle.
Yeah, it seems like Gladiator are going quite well. They seem to be nicely pressed up there. But Quantum racing comfortably ahead. St. Petersburg Yacht Club also writing in to say that Brunenisek also have a young Russian youth Finn champion from the Finn Olympic class on board for this season, Igor Terpigoriev, who's on for the season. So great to see some young blood coming into the class too.
Yeah, that's great. And, I think one thing to add to that question about how you get involved in these programs, I think one thing that's overlooked, especially among young American sailors, is the importance of having a non-sailing skill set, whether it's sail making or it's engine repair or winch mechanics or boat work. The ability to do two things or three things can really make you invaluable to a program and maybe helps you get on board as one of the shore team and you do a little sailing in practice and you show your skills. So, when it comes to getting involved in these programs, having a complete set of marine skills is invaluable and really can make the difference in terms of when it comes to that tough decision of what sailor they take on board.
Indeed. We were just saying that earlier on. We had that question from one of our Facebook fans, Lewis Tellers, who was asking us how you get involved with the class. Well, of course, there is the route in, as Stu said, building your skill set, so the mechanical side or the sail making or things like that, or just overall marine skills. There's a number of the boat captains have then worked their way into the programs, get onto the boat, and so guys like Tom Wilson, for example, Chris Hosking, their all-round skill sets make them invaluable to the program. They run the programs in some cases, and they also hold their own on the water in key roles.
It's amazing what you can learn just seeing these programs. We get sailors, the schedule these guys have, the racing today or, on a normal day may only take 2 or 2.5 or 3 hours for the actual competition. But the day is fully scripted from the time they get up until the time they finish their debrief at 6 or 7 at night. It's a full commitment, and the ability to sort of see that in any way, shape, or form, even if you're not racing every day, is invaluable for young sailors.
Indeed. Some of the shore team guys are down here at 7 o'clock in the morning, and they're working long into the evening, making sure the boats are perfectly prepared. Reliability on a circuit which has perhaps got 50 races over the course, or 50 or 60 races over the course of the season, and there's a no discard rule. No races are allowed to be thrown out over the course of the whole season. So any kind of mechanical breakdown is always very expensive in terms of places. And so the role of the shore team is becoming ever more important. They're working longer and harder hours between regattas as well, and they really do perform an invaluable role. Meantime, Azura just appear to have lost out a little bit coming up this second beat, dropping down to fourth. Provetza and Sled now taking second and third.
Yeah, so Andy, I was just about to mention, it looks like Azura is out here on the right side by us. It seems that Vasco Vestado, never afraid to separate from the herd. The entire group is over toward the left side, and he's playing this right side. And he may have lost out initially, but I'm almost starting to see some whitecaps out here on the right side of the course, Andy. And there may be a little more pressure coming out here, and he may have sniffed it out. As you say, he rolls into attack right now, and he'll be coming back to reconnect with some of these guys. The angle doesn't look spectacular, and so if he doesn't have both those things, angle and wind speed, it's probably not going to work for him. But there is a nice spot of pressure out here on the right side at the moment.
And certainly, in our view just now, seems to have come out in quite a reasonable angle and in quite good pressure. We'll just watch as they converge back with Sled and Provetza in particular. It looks like a little bit of a gamble for them just now. Preveza then on our leaderboard up to second with Sled not too far behind in third. Preveza.
Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead, Stu.
No, so I'd say it's a curious gamble from Vasco Vescado and the Azura team, given that Quantum had a pretty solid lead and they were pretty well in control of second place with everyone sort of going their way. Given the sort of the lead they have of 8 points at this stage, you think you might be more inclined to stick with the competition and sort of shadow them up the course and maintain that top 3 finish. But he clearly had a reason to come over here because he wasn't pushed over here. He came over here of his own volition. But I think we're tickling 10 knots right here at the windward mark here, Andy. The breeze is definitely up. Just seeing the first inkling of a white cap here or there. So that's really nice to see. This is going to be a great final run here. And for some of the teams that maybe are a little further back, there may still be a few passing lanes out here. Although I think this is Quantum's race to win here. They're going to come in here with about the same advantage they had around that first park. And they should be able to roll on down toward the finish, barring any unforeseen incident.
So yeah,
Randy, looking down, I'm just seeing a duck by Sled on
Azura.
So yeah, very tight duck. So I would suspect that might move Preveza up into a solid second, but we'll have to wait and see a little bit further.
Yeah, Quantum strengthened their lead out to 180 metres at the moment, going well. Really the perfect comeback after yesterday. 6 and 7, 13 points yesterday. Won the first race of the regatta. Get off the start line really well on the day one, race one. And really led... It's pretty close. I mean, just a few words about the deltas, Stu, over the course of the regatta so far. In the race number one, the delta between Quantum Racing and Azura was just 4 seconds. Race number two, the delta between Platoon and Azura was 3 seconds. Race number 3, the delta between Azura and Brennanasek was 4 seconds. And race number 4, between Azura and Platoon, 6 seconds. So really nothing in it at all as Quantum Racing lead. And I think the delta this time could be a little more than a few seconds.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's some great information. It must have been a really conscientious intern that put that together for you, Andy.
No, I did it myself. The conscientious intern, Stu, his name was Stuart Childerley, and he's the assistant race officer. And he'll be having words with you later. And he's a big guy.
All right, Andy. I'm just going to blame you. But anyway, Quantum on the offset leg. They're going to be set and drawing down the run before any of these teams get a hint at this windward mark here. They're about to round, and we've got Azura, Sled, and Preveza all within 2-3 boat lengths of each other. Azura actually, they were able to survive on that right side. That might not have looked so good initially, but they did turn it into a lead. So it serves us right for doubting anything of. Done by Vasco Vescado, but here they come. They're pointing at the windward mark, rather. We got Sled right on their tail, and then Preveza maybe a boat length between Sled and Preveza. So all those boats, that's the battle for second, and that will be the one I think will most interesting to watch as he goes down the final run. There you can hear Sled easing off the runners, heading toward the offset leg. Here comes Preveza. Now, the behind that. To see what's again, it's sort of the same thing happening. That we had a nice puff as Quantum came into the mark, and then now it's fading away. And so some of these boats, I'm looking at back here at Gladiator, they're struggling to hold the ley line to the mark. We've got Brennanasek, Platoon, Allegre, all sort of ducking behind boats. Those 3 are on port tack right now. I'm looking at Gladiator, and a couple of these other boats are coming in here. Sorsha as well. And Ran Racing, all just struggling, clinging desperately to the ley line, trying to make this windward mark. And so that's going to really separate again. The first way out front, the next 3 are in a pretty tight little group, and then it's going to be the battle for 5th place here amongst these boats. Gladiator poking it up. They are going to get around here. They're going to get around in front of Sorsha, so they're going to carry that to they're going to carry that fifth place position around the offset mark, but it's going to be quite close, and they're going to have a lot of boats on their heels. Sorsha right on top of Gladiator, so a couple of owner drivers there really working hard to get up to that fifth place. Then it's going to be Rand Racing, and Platoon actually with better speed may roll over Rand. Legray is overlapped with those three as well. So 3 boats overlap as they go around the mark. Brunelesek is going to come in here, coming around in last. Just Windward March is not working out for them today.
Yeah, a word about Sorsha, though, Stu. They're in the mix. New to the 52 Super Series this season. They did a couple of regattas last year. This is their first regatta with us this season, and an older boat, but they're there in 6th place, and young talent on the back of the boat. The strategist is Joe Glanfield, the 470 Olympic medalist, and Nick Asher, the 470 world champion. Teaming up, Nick Asher sailed previously on Allegri, and
Andy,
also on
I got
Racing.
some breaking news for you here. Looking across, and at least one of those boats, the top 3, has stopped. Either Sled or Prevetta, I cannot tell from here, but they got their spinnaker down.
Ran Racing have the same problem again. They've a problem.
Yeah,
their kite is blown.
Yeah, they've ripped their kite on the hoist there, ripped it right off, the tack right off. And it looks like, I'm trying to see if that's Prevetta, but they must have ripped the spinnaker or something, because they appear to be hoisting something. I don't know what's going on down there. The spinnaker is about sort of halfway up. I can't tell if it's going up or coming down. But just a tough break for those guys.
We can
allowing Azura to escape there, following Quantum. That's probably going to be your 1-2 Sled, just going into a jibe. I believe it's Sled out on the far side. So Prevetta now appears to have a spinnaker up and drawing. I'm not sure what happened. I didn't see it, but that's going to drop them back well. At least 3 or 4 spots they're going to lose in that snafu, whatever it was. And then we've got a good battle going on right in the middle there between Gladiator and Sorsha. Those boats are overlapped.
We can see Ran in the background of our shot, just managing to get another kite up. It's they've had their jib up for a few seconds, but Ran getting themselves sorted out has cost them a couple of places now, back down to 10th, and Prevetta dropping to 7th, I think, just now, or sorry, 6th just now. So they've lost 3 places. So the final leg of our 4-leg race number 5 here at the Miami Royal Cup, day 3 of racing. A little bit of delay early on as we waited for the breeze to settle, but all credit to the race team, Dick Neville and Stuart Childerley, and everyone on the water running the racing. They've got away into a light 5 to 6 knot breeze to start with, and now it's built quite nicely. Quantum Racing leading by over 200 metres from the regatta leaders, Azura, with Sled in 3rd. Quantum then, with that big lead, seems to be fairly gentle coming down this final run. Have you heard anything whether there'll be just the one race today, Stu? I would imagine so.
I would be surprised to see a second race, but I'm not the PRO, and
You're not.
Can't make those decisions. No, we determined that already, I think. But Andy, so I've seen Quantum here jibe away. They were sort of comfortably set up underneath Azura as the 2 boats come down, and now Quantum has gone back. And looking at Quantum right now, this breeze is getting very, very light. So once again, we had nice breeze up at the top, getting light as these boats come down the run, and certainly a little bit of nerves, I think, out there, because it's not easy in these sort of conditions. It's going to be quite anxious on these boats as you look up and you see teams behind you carrying maybe a little bit more pressure, or teams out to the side of you carrying a little more pressure. Quantum sort of jive back toward the middle, and that's given Azura a little bit of room. If Vasco and his team can find themselves a little bit of a puff out here on the right side looking upwind, they may close that gap significantly. And just sort of looking at how the spinnakers are set up right now, I would say that Azura is sailing with a couple of knots more pressure right at the moment. And that is going to make this is going to, we may be in line for yet another bang finish.
That's
Andy,
it,
despite
Stu.
prediction at the top.
That's it, Stu. The curse of the commentator. Just when you say it can't possibly be down to 5 or 6 seconds again, Vasco Vascoto rolls the dice, pulls back, and we can see his lead. The quantum lead has been chopped from 200 meters to 35 meters just now. The same thing applying though. The left side coming good for Azura, coming down with extra pressure, but it will be all about the jibe and the angle back through the finish line. We can see a nice gain for Azura, but really it's about making it stick and coming back to Quantum.
Quantum has themselves set. I mean, they're waiting. You can see the boats behind them. About to come in, and when they hope that they can get that, and maybe it's their turn, and they can sort of jet out ahead while maybe the pressure goes away from the right side a little bit. Because right now they definitely are sailing in a hole, and they've struggled for the boat speed, especially relative to Azura, who look like they're going quite well, still going quite well. Nice full spinnaker as they come down the lower half of this run.
So yes, just confirmation from the principal or the assistant race officer, Stuart Childerley, that they're only doing one race today. Instructions are to have the fleet ashore promptly, but a good race and certainly worth waiting. That little bit of extra time for. Nice equable race course, and Azura's the delta to Azura now at 52, 53 meters, I think. Sorry, 90. My eyesight failing me, but yeah, Quantum easing clear. So the points situation after this race, if Azura come across in second with Quantum leading, then the delta will be 11 points between Azura. Azura will go to 8 points. Quantum will go to 19. Platoon would be on 22 if they continue to be 8th. And Provetsa, presently 5th, would go to 20 points. So Provetsa would stay in 3rd. Quantum would move up to 2nd, very, very provisionally.
So I think it's a battle sort of angle versus velocity here. And the Quantum boat appears to be pointing more toward the finish line, and they appear to have the better angle, but I think the better pressure remains out on that right side looking upwind with Azura. I see Gladiator out there as well, Scotia, and I think farthest boat out there, I can't quite see. They're a long way off, but Quantum is sort of starting to plod down there, and Azura is getting to the point they're going to have to call for a jibe here at some point in the near future and come back, and you can just see the boats out further out. Scortia's jibing. The farthest boat out there is jibing as well. I'm not sure who that is. You have a better outlet than me.
So again, just Sorsha very much in the mix. Peter Harrison's team didn't have much time to train before this regatta, and fighting it out with Provetsa for 4th and 5th. Nothing in it just now.
So Quantum's rolled into the jibe. Andy, they made that final jibe, but I think it's still a comfortable lead here for Quantum Racing. Azura, sorry, has rolled into the jibe. They're coming back on starboard. Quantum is just on the committee boat end of the finish line, and the breeze appears to be picking back up for them right now. So a good angle and a little bit more pressure as they get down toward the bottom, and a little bit maybe a lighter for Azura than it's been. So Quantum should roll across. Not quite the lead they had maybe at the weather mark, but it's not a time difference. So they're just getting just winning by an inch is worth the same amount of points as winning by a mile, of course. And then it looks like Sled's going to come around here. I think they will be in 3rd. I don't see there's going to be too much of a chance of getting Azura. But here comes Quantum Racing. Great comeback for these guys from yesterday's somewhat disappointing results. So I'm sure Borg Galari and Terry Hutchinson will be happier this evening, knowing that all the hard work they did last night has paid off with a big race win. And you really have to chalk that up. The top of that first beat, they just nailed the last 30 seconds of that leg and were able to extend away. And from there, we just see a Sled now jiving Azura coming underneath Sled with some good pressure. So Azura firmly in control of second place here. I don't think Sled's going to be able to do too much to threaten that. So we can see Azura heading down here. They're soaking away. They're going to go into a jibe and peel away, and they will be finishing here shortly. And then it's a bit of a gap, and we've got a nice battle here for the third place. I'm looking back up there. I see Provezza, I see Sorsha, I see Gladiator all sort of in the mix. Platoon has clawed back a little bit. So it looks like Provezza, despite that little problem they had with their Spinnaker, may be able to hold on to fourth place. And given how badly that can be, I think that's a sort of a victory for them, not to have dropped any further points.
So yeah, just Stu, if you don't mind, just keep us posted as the boats come through the finish line. We're looking at the line live just now. We've seen Azura followed by Sled. So who's next?
Yeah, we got Azura followed by Sled, and now it's going to be Provezza. They're about 30 seconds away. Sorsha behind them. Nice job for Peter Harrison and his team. They look like they're going to come across here. They're right now into, again, the same battle they had with Tony Langley and Gladiator. Of course, I think earlier in the race it was Tony Langley with the slight edge. Now it's Peter Harrison. They do appear to have one more jibe in before this finish line. They're holding out as long as possible before they make that jibe, and then they're going to jibe and carry that across the finish. And then Brunellesek coming back strongly. At some point, I think we had them in 10th place. They look like they're going to come across here in 7th unless Platoon really gets a nice burst down there. So matching jibe here.
So Stu, Provezza through in 4th place. We're just seeing that right now.
Yeah, Provezza through in 4th. Here comes Sorsha. They're going to be in 5th. Gladiator in 6th. Gazprom looks like they may be 7th, although Platoon might have something to say about that. They're coming into the right side. So we're watching that as it goes on here. Get myself a little better perspective. Actually, I think Platoon's going to get it. They've come in with a tremendous burst.
So
of speed.
Platoon gets 7th, Stu.
Platoon will get 7th. And ran racing after that trouble with the Spinnaker up there. They're gonna be relegated to 10th place in this race. And of course, the race committee's got AP over A, confirming what you already told us, Andy, that we are done for the day. Just one race today, but hopefully we will have better conditions tomorrow and get 2 more in then.
So Stu, just talk to us about the Quantum win then. What was the sequence of events that led to that?
Well, I think it was really some smart sailing up at the top part of that beat. I mean, they didn't have the strongest start. They didn't appear to get the favored side, but they hung tough on that left side. They came out of there well, and that was not a given. I think when all the boats got close together, I think they were one of the first boats to come back from the left corner, and that gave them a little bit of freedom as they came across the course. And then I think the really key move, the move that really won this race, was when they set up for that windward mark and they were in first place, they didn't try and get greedy. They kind of had an opportunity to maybe shave it pretty closely and tack right on what the ley line looked like and go for the mark, but they instead overstood by a little bit. They saw the breeze was dying, overstood, and were able to cruise in around that mark when everyone else struggled. And they ended up having a total log jam, and that gave them a huge lead, and that gave them some freedom to work the rest of the way.
So the points tally then after 5 races were the top positions still Azura on 8 points, Quantum on 19 points, Provezza on 19, Platoon dropped to 4th place overall on 24, Ran Racing on 28, Brunellesek on 30, Allegra 34, Sled on 35, Sorsha on 38, and Gladiator on 44, though Gladiator will their redress situation is obviously a little bit of a movable feast, and that will change over the course of the regatta. Scored 2/12 at the moment, but that should change. But Stu, at the moment then, Azura top of the table with a lead of 11 points as we reach the midpoint of the regatta.
Yeah, they've had quite a regatta so far. I mean, we didn't see this in Key West. Everything was very even. No one was able to sort of maintain any kind of dominance over the fleet. But on these conditions out here, Vasco Viscato and his team have been virtually flawless. So tremendous job by that team, and they're going to be really tough to beat the rest of the way. Although, with a no throwouts, 10 points, one bad race, one missed spinnaker drop, anything like that, over early, and you're right back with the rest of the fleet. So they've got some room to work, but it's hardly a given with 5 races still remaining.
And then, second place, the points are tied, though, between Quantum Racing and Preveza. Preveza still going well, pretty consistent, 5, 3, 3, 4, 4. One of the teams who will be contenders for the podium at the end of the week, you'd imagine.
That's been their hallmark all season so far with Peter Holmberg and Tony Ray, sort of a new partnership there. They've been quite consistent. They haven't necessarily got out and won a lot of races, but they have limited the damage, and so you have to see sort of how they handle it as they go forward. I know that after finishing 4th in Key West when they were so close to the podium, you know that Ergen Emre and his team are really going to be itching to get on the podium this time around. So I don't suspect that's going to change much of their approach. Tony Ray is a veteran. He knows he's been playing this game for a long time. He's not going to change his style just for one regatta, but I think they'll be really hoping to get themselves on the podium this time around.
So we're looking at the standings now. Azura then, as I said, on 8 points. Quantum Racing at 19 points. Preveza 19. Platoon losing out a little bit today, but gaining 1 place in the final run, but still dropping to 4th on 24 points. Ran Racing, not a good day for them, in 5th on 28 points. Brunellasek on 30 in 6th. Allegre on 34 points. Sled on 35, 38 for Sorsha. Gladiators 44 credited just now, but that will change, I think, as the redress comes in. So good to see Sorsha getting a solid result there. Will be some happy faces as the Sorsha team come ashore.
I think you also got to be Gladiator was pleased to be in the mix.
Indeed.
They weren't.
Yes, Stu, a few thoughts. A few thoughts about the conditions over the next few days and how the relative strengths of the teams in the lighter airs. I mean, certainly it seemed like Quantum started better. Is it easier in the lighter conditions and flatter water to get off the line? You'd imagine.
A little bit maybe, but in the lighter air, you've got to be worried about powering the boat up. I think we're seeing a little bit of just the partnership between Bor Galari and Terry Hutchinson. Is sure a work in progress. And, Bor is a tremendous helmsman. He's won in everything from Belgia's 24s to other GP52s. I think he's got to get used to working with Terry, and they've got to develop that rapport that is so crucial in those waning seconds right before the starting gun fires. It's not an automatic thing. Even no matter how experienced the sailors are, you've got to sort of get used to working with one another and the shorthand that's required to communicate in those short periods of time. So I think we'll see those guys get a little bit more familiar. And of course, we saw that when the winds got light in Key West, the Quantum team was at their best. They really excelled in those conditions. So I wouldn't put it past them to close that gap on Azura. Of course, we also know that Vasco Viscato can be a bit of a magician when it comes to light air and tricky conditions. So he's going to be tough to beat.
Well, Stu, thank you for your hard work on the water today. We look forward to joining you once again tomorrow. 2 days of racing still to go off Miami Beach at this Miami Royal Cup. It has been a great day of racing with obviously just that one race, but Quantum Racing bouncing back after yesterday and showing they have good speed in the light wind conditions. Azura then leading the regatta. Join us again tomorrow on the 52 Super Series TV, powered by Quantum Sails. We'll bring you all the action from the race course all the way through to the finish on Saturday. So thank you, as I say, very much for joining us. Join us again, same time. We'll just go live just about 10-15 minutes before racing starts tomorrow. And 10 race schedule. There's everything to play for, but Azura with a very small lead. Join us tomorrow.